The streets of Paris were cold and dark. People were scared. Others had hope. In the small streets, something big was about to happen. Nobody knew yet. One night, a man in a mail coach brought a secret message. It said, "Recalled to life." Such strange words. What did they mean? Who was coming back? A young woman named Lucy Manette got sad news and happy news together. Her father, who she thought was dead, might still be alive in Paris. Lucy had lived her whole life thinking she had no family. Now she would travel to a strange city to meet a man she never saw, her lost father. Mr. Lorry, a kind man who worked for a bank, promised to help her. Together, they were going on a journey that would change not just one life but many. Imagine finding out that someone you love was locked away for many years. How would he look? Would he know you? Would he be the same man? In Paris, the streets were dirty and full of poor people. Some were angry, some were tired. One day, a barrel broke open and wine spilled everywhere. Men, women, and children ran to the broken barrel and drank from the street. They were so hungry and thirsty that even dirty wine made them happy. Near the wine shop, in a tiny dark room, a man sat alone. His hair was white. His face was tired. This was Dr. Manette. This was Lucy's lost father. For many years, Dr. Manette lived alone in sadness. Locked in prison, he forgot much about life. He learned to make shoes to pass long, lonely days. When Lucy first saw him, he did not remember her. His heart was broken. But slowly, a light of love and hope woke inside him when he saw her tearful face. This first meeting between a father and daughter after so many years was both beautiful and painful. It would start a long, hard journey for both of them. Lucy and Mr. Lorry helped Dr. Manette onto a boat. The doctor still looked weak and lost. He held Lucy's hand tightly as they left France behind them. The boat rocked slowly on the water. Dr. Manette whispered Lucy's mother's name. This made Lucy cry. She hoped London would heal her father's heart. When they arrived in London, Mr. Lorry took them to a house. It was small but warm. Lucy held her father's arm, feeling safe but worried about the future. Time passed. Dr. Manette grew stronger. He started walking in the garden. He spoke more often but still sometimes had sad days when he sat very quiet. One day, Lucy met a young man named Charles Darnay. He was kind and smart. Lucy liked him at once, but there was sadness in Charles' eyes too. Soon, Charles was on trial for treason. People thought he gave secrets to France. If found guilty, he could die. Lucy sat in court, her heart full of fear. At the trial, a man said he saw Charles talking with Frenchmen. Another man lied too. Things looked very bad for Charles, and many people whispered. Mr. Stryver, the lawyer, called Sydney Carton to stand. Carton looked like Charles. The crowd gasped. Maybe the men had seen Carton instead of Charles. The judge and the jury talked. Then they said Charles was not guilty. Lucy cried with joy. Charles thanked Mr. Stryver and Sydney Carton for helping him. After the trial, Sydney Carton sat with Charles in a small tavern. Carton drank a lot of wine. He seemed sad and said he cared little for himself or life. Carton talked poorly about himself. He said he could never change. He said Charles had everything he wished for but could never have, like love and hope. Deep in his heart, Sydney Carton loved Lucy. He would never tell her, but he promised himself he would do anything to make her life safe and happy. Charles Darnay had a secret. His family was rich and cruel. Their name was Evermond. Charles wanted nothing from them. He chose to live a kind, simple life instead. Charles loved Lucy Manette very much. They married in a small, sweet wedding. Everyone smiled, but Dr. Manette looked troubled after a private talk with Charles. After the wedding, Lucy and Charles went away together. Dr. Manette stayed behind. That night, Mr. Lorry found him making shoes again, lost in old, sad memories. For 9 long days, Dr. Manette stayed in his dark sadness. He spoke almost no words. Mr. Lorry and Miss Pross worried but stayed close, hoping he would return to himself. At last, Dr. Manette woke from his sadness. He did not ask about the past days. Mr. Lorry carefully helped him to destroy the shoemaking bench forever in secret. After this hard time, peace came back. Lucy and Charles returned happy. Dr. Manette smiled again. But deep inside him, old pain stayed hidden like a sleeping storm. In France, dark things were growing. Poor people became angry. They were tired of being hungry while the rich lived well. A woman named Madame Defarge spoke of revenge. Madame Defarge owned a small wine shop. She sat near the door and knitted. But this knitting was not clothes. It was a list of people she wanted punished one day. The list grew longer every day. Madame Defarge never smiled. She watched and listened. Her heart was full of old anger. Her hands worked her knitting faster and faster. In Paris, loud cries filled the air. Angry people with sticks and tools ran toward a big stone building called the Bastille. They wanted to break it open. The Bastille was a prison. Inside, rich people locked the poor. Now the poor were fighting back. After long hours, they broke the doors and ran inside. Madame Defarge stood with the crowd. She did not scream. She knitted as she watched the gates fall. Her knitting was a secret list of enemies to punish. Inside the Bastille, Madame Defarge found the cold, old room where Dr. Manette had lived. It was dark and small. She looked for papers or secrets hidden there. Revolution grew stronger each day. People were angry and hungry. Madame Defarge added more names to her knitted list. She never smiled, only watched and waited. In London, Charles Darnay heard about the trouble in France. A friend he knew long ago was now locked up just for being loyal. Charles felt he must help him. Lucy begged Charles not to go. Paris was full of danger. But Charles believed it was the right thing to help his friend, even if it meant great risk for him. Charles wrote goodbye letters. In the middle of the night, he left quietly. He rode a small horse cart toward the coast, hoping to sail to France quickly. When Charles arrived in France, guards stopped him. They asked many hard questions. They called him an enemy because he had left France before the Revolution. Very soon, Charles was thrown into prison. The walls were cold. Other prisoners looked tired and sad. Charles asked for help, but the guards just laughed at him. Back in London, Mr. Lorry got bad news. Charles was now a prisoner. Dr. Manette, Lucy, and their little girl quickly made plans. They would travel to Paris. Dr. Manette believed he could save Charles. After all, he was once a prisoner too. He knew the pain, and he had suffered. This time, he hoped he could help. Dr. Manette worked day and night to save Charles. His past as a prisoner gave him special power. Many listened to him because they knew he suffered before. At last, Charles came for trial. Dr. Manette spoke for him. The judge listened carefully. Charles was set free. Lucy cried with happiness and hugged her father. But joy did not last long. Right after the trial, soldiers arrested Charles again. This time, the danger was even greater. Fear and sadness filled every heart. The reason for Charles's second arrest was a letter. Long ago, Dr. Manette wrote it while in prison. Madame Defarge found it hidden and gave it to the court. The letter told a sad story. Two rich brothers had hurt poor people. Dr. Manette tried to help them. They locked him in the Bastille to hide their shame. Even though Charles had turned away from his cruel family, the court said he must be punished for their crimes. The house was silent. Lucy covered her face. In the dark streets, Sydney Carton walked alone. He made a secret plan. He loved Lucy deeply, and he was ready to do something very brave for her happiness. Carton visited a small shop owned by a chemist. He bought something hidden. Alone, he whispered kind words to Lucy in his heart. Then he smiled, very sadly. He went to a secret meeting. He showed respect, but stayed quiet. He talked with an old enemy who had power. Silent promises were made under loud cheers outside. Sydney Carton went to the prison. He made Charles dress like him. Then Carton used a small drug to make Charles sleep. Guards did not know Carton changed places. The real Charles was taken out of jail. Mr. Lorry and Lucy waited with a coach. They put Charles inside. Quietly, they rode through the dark city toward the gates. Lucy held Charles's hand the whole way. Mr. Lorry watched the road. They prayed to pass safely. If guards found them, all could be lost. Fear filled their beating hearts. At the Manette's home, Madame Defarge arrived. She carried a loaded gun. She wanted to arrest Lucy and the family, but only Miss Pross was there to meet her. Miss Pross refused to let Madame Defarge pass. They fought fiercely. Madame Defarge's gun fired during the struggle. It killed her, and Miss Pross was left standing. Miss Pross cried but quickly cleaned her hands. She left at once, meeting Jerry Cruncher outside. Together, they hurried away from danger, hearts pounding in fear. At the guillotine, Sydney Carton bravely waited his turn. Around him, many cried or prayed. But Carton stayed quiet. He thought only of Lucy and her beautiful smile. A young woman was in line before him. She was very afraid. Carton gently held her hand. His calm smile gave her peace. They stood strong as the line moved forward. When Carton stepped up, he lifted his head high. His heart was full of love. He died so that Lucy, Charles, and their little girl could live free and happy lives. In his last thoughts, Carton dreamed of a better world. He saw Lucy with a son named after him. He saw Dr. Manette old and peaceful, smiling in his quiet home. Carton also saw France become a kinder place. The cruel people who hurt others would be gone. New children would play safely in sunny gardens and clean streets. Carton's last words were full of quiet hope. Because of his sacrifice, love and happiness would grow stronger. And he knew it was the best thing he had ever done. After the revolution, many streets in Paris were broken and dirty. Houses stood empty. People had little food, but some began to dream of better times ahead. Dr. Manette, Lucy, Charles, and little Lucy now lived safely in London. They tried to forget the dark days in France. Their hearts were full of thanks for life. Years passed. Little Lucy grew tall and strong. Charles worked hard to care for his family. Dr. Manette found peace at last in his garden, smiling at the roses. Mr. Lorry still worked at the bank. He stayed close to the family like a true friend. Miss Pross also stayed. She made sure life at home was full of smiles. Jerry Cruncher changed too. He no longer stole from graves. Instead, he worked honestly at the bank. He promised to be a better husband and a better father. Jerry often helped young Jerry go to school. He wanted his son to have a better life. They could now walk in the parks of London without fear or shame. Every year on the same day, Lucy lit a small candle in the window. She stayed silent for a time. Charles and Dr. Manette also remembered what they owed to Carton. They taught little Lucy about Sydney Carton. They said he was brave and kind. They told her that he had given them their happy life through his great gift. Little Lucy always listened quietly. She grew to love the name Sydney. She dreamed of being brave and good like him, helping others whenever they needed. As time moved on, France slowly changed. The streets grew safer, markets opened again, children laughed and played near the rivers and gardens of Paris. People planted crops and flowers. New leaders tried to make fairer laws. Although many remembered sad times, they also looked forward to better tomorrows. In England, news of a quieter France made people smile. Mr. Lorry sometimes spoke with customers about it at the bank, sipping his warm cup of tea happily. Lucy and Charles had another child, a boy. They named him Sydney after the man who had saved them. He had bright eyes and a smile full of hope and love. Young Sydney loved listening to stories about the brave man he was named for. He said he too wanted to be someone who made the world a kinder place. The two children grew up happy, running through fields and beside rivers. Their laughter was a song in the air, a song made possible by Sydney's great heart. Years went by, and little Lucy and young Sydney grew up. They loved reading books and dreaming about faraway places. Their smiles made every house feel warm. Each summer, the family visited green fields outside London. They had picnics with fresh bread and fruit. Charles and Lucy laughed while watching the children run and play. Young Sydney liked to pick wildflowers for his mother. Little Lucy loved making crowns from the flowers. Life was simple and sweet under the wide blue sky. Mr. Lorry often joined the family too. He told exciting stories about ships, gold, and trips across the sea. Little Lucy and young Sydney listened with wide eyes. Miss Pross baked sweet cakes for the picnics. She always made sure the children had enough to eat. Jerry Cruncher carried the heavy baskets and laughed with them. The warm days ended in dancing under the trees. Music played. Everyone clapped happily. Even Mr. Lorry sometimes danced a little while holding his old hat high. As young Sydney grew, he wanted to work at Tellson's bank. Mr. Lorry taught him how to count coins and write important papers carefully. Sydney liked learning new things. Little Lucy loved music more. She played songs on a small piano at home. Her fingers danced over the keys, and her sweet songs filled the rooms with joy. In the evenings, Dr. Manette sat by the fire and listened to his grandchildren. His heart felt full of peace. He thought of how much love now filled his life. When news came from France, it was often good. Fields grew strong crops. Markets were busy. People said the new leaders wanted to build a fairer and freer country. Mr. Lorry smiled when he heard this. He remembered the dark streets and broken doors. Now he saw hope returning to the city he once knew as full of sorrow. In the quiet nights, Lucy sometimes looked at the stars and whispered thanks. She remembered their old pain. But she also saw how love had built a bright new life.